Greetings humans, I'm Vulpz the Reviewer, the foxiest reviewer you ever met. If you can remember in my previous video, I listed the top 5 cartoons I hate that everyone else likes, and at number 1 was Sylvester and Tweety Mysteries. It's at number 1 because of one specific area they fail in, turning the entire universe against Sylvester. And now, I'm going to show you the top 10 episodes where they crank the Sylvester torture up to here. It went way too far, and he goes through hell even when he's not trying to eat Tweety. And with that being said, let's get to the countdown.
Person man, hit on the head with a frying pan, lives his life in a garbage can, person man.
Correct me if I'm wrong here, but it's not really often that you'd see the Blarney Stone in cartoons. Well, it definitely made a major appearance in this first episode. So in this episode, the Blarney Stone gets stolen, they try to figure out where it is, and they find out it's in some house or whatever. This is a Sylvester torture for 2 reasons. One, they assigned him to be watchguard, to stay up and watch the house while they sleep, just for the sake of having him be the watchguard instead of Hector. And 2, Granny ends up dropping the Blarney Stone onto Sylvester 5 times. I am dead serious. Let me show you.
Oh, maybe it's this one. Oh, well, it's got to be this one.
Yet she doesn't even check on him, or at least move him out of the way before pressing any more buttons. What the hell, Granny?
Person man, hit on the head with a frying pan, lives his life in a garbage can, person man.
Aliens are usually a cool choice to add in kids' cartoon episodes, but this sure as hell isn't the case. I'm gonna keep this brief for y'all just to save some fucking time. Aliens crash land in the forest, they encounter and annoy Sylvester, Hector beats Sylvester for no good reason, Granny dismisses Sylvester for no good reason, and in the end, Granny takes credit for busting the aliens even though she didn't do jack. All in all, this episode probably could have been much better written if Sylvester tried to help the aliens get back to their planet or something, and cut that bit with the stolen underpants out completely. It wouldn't have been a mysteries episode, but at least it would have made the episode somewhat better, if you know what I'm saying.
Person man, hit on the head with a frying pan, lives his life in a garbage can, person man.
This episode will most likely worsen people's acrophobia. Ah, the scare up there. An episode that was pretty much made to make people feel uncomfortable. Hey, do you like seeing people relentlessly tormented for no good reason? Well, that's exactly what you get here. Sylvester being constantly tormented by sky gremlins. They drop heavy objects on him, throw him out of the plane, hit him on the head with a mallet, and just overall make his plane ride hell. And at one point, as he was thrown out of the window, he tapped on the window where Granny was while she was reading a book. And instead of looking at the window to see what was making that tapping noise, she just closed the window blinds, thinking that it was just some sort of distraction. Wow, Granny, I take it you really hate Sylvester.
Person man, hit on the head with a frying pan, lives his life in a garbage can, person man.
I wouldn't be surprised if this episode made Abraham Lincoln turn over in his grave. The episode starts fairly asserting this episode's spot on the list, with everyone visiting some sort of Abraham Lincoln museum and Sylvester wanting to bring in food, but the guard takes it and eats the food right in front of him, for no prompting or good reason whatsoever. And later on in the episode, Sylvester uses Abraham Lincoln's toothpick. Like, why would Abe Lincoln keep a toothpick on a stand? What sense does that make? Toothpicks are meant to be thrown away after they've been used, or at least put in ice trays to make ice pops, as seen in the Dexter's Laboratory episode. But anyways, after that, he starts to feel some sort of guilt after it, after Tweety and Hector disguise themselves as Lincoln for whatever, and he begins to go through all sorts of these, like, hallucinations or whatever. Yeah, psychological warfare, isn't really something you would probably see in a Looney Tunes episode. And later on, he comes back to reality, they find a toothpick, and Sylvester attempts to eat Tweety before he gets hit in the face with a tomato. Just why? Tweety being a jerk, Sylvester being suffered for no good reason, and it's all that put together isn't really a good combination. But hey, it is the majority of this shit show. But like, can you imagine an episode where Sylvester actually tried to help Tweety? Well...
Person man, hit on the head with a frying pan, lives his life in a garbage can, person man.
For those of you who do not remember Beaky Buzzard, you won't want to remember him after this episode. Also, that title card is a mess to read. Yes, I am aware that he saved Tweety just so he can eat him, but he still saved Tweety, so... yeah. And... at the end, he disguises himself as a buzzard, Sylvester does, in order to get Tweety out of there. However, this ends up getting the love of Beaky Buzzard's mother, who mistakes him for a buzzard. And at the end, when his mask comes off and it's revealed that he is a cat, she still goes after him. And to make matters worse, Granny thought it was just some mating thing. But she thought wrong in more ways than one. And to make it even worse, the three of them just completely go on a plane and just leave him there with the love-struck buzzard. This further exacerbates that Granny really likes Tweety more than Sylvester. But more on that later. What I said just there will come in mighty handy in the future. And now we are crossing over into the Big Five. Want to experience it with me? Too bad.
Person man, hit on the head with a frying pan, lives his life in a garbage can, person man.
You know, if someone was to make a list featuring episodes of Looney Tunes where Granny is unlikable, I wouldn't be surprised if Mush Ado About Nothing ranks on that list. And rather high on that list, for that matter. So, why would this be high on a Granny unlikable top listing? Well, in this episode, Granny is in a mushing contest. Doesn't make her sound like a villain yet, does it? Well, after they get caught in an avalanche, they need a new musher to mush them to the race. And because Hector is under the weather, who does Granny choose to be the musher? Not herself, not Tweety, not just sticking with the other dogs she already has. Let me give you a couple of hints. The character she uses as the other musher is the character who is headlighting this top 10. If you guessed Sylvester, you fucking got it. She uses Sylvester as a dog, which I can only assume is for the purpose of causing him harm. She said she was sorry, but I fucking doubt she meant it. She is not sorry at all. She did that specifically to hurt Sylvester. She doesn't give a shit about Sylvester. It's rare that she's shown to give a shit about Sylvester. Let's move on. Oh yeah, and after they do win the mushing race, Sylvester got the trophy, but in the end he got chased off by the dogs. Oh, and I think his trophy got dropped in the water as well. Now we can move on.
Person man, hit on the head with a frying pan, lives his life in a garbage can, person man.
You know what could be worse than Sylvester being forced to act as a mushing dog? Well, how about Sylvester forced to perform dangerous stunts? Which he was. In a terrible, terrible episode. In this episode, a monkey goes missing before it's supposed to perform stunts for a circus. And so Sylvester is invited to take the monkey's place in performing dangerous stunts. But as Sylvester was refusing to jump off a diving board into a glass of water, Tweety does this.
I sure hate to do this, but the show must go on.
I sure hate to do this, but the show must go on. What a load of baloney. You see what Tweety did there? He just got out a pin, pinned Sylvester in the ass, and caused him to fall off the board, all without hesitation and with a sadistic smile on his face. Fuck you, Tweety. Fuck you. 3 episodes to go, And Granny TD's character has been ruined, but I don't know about Hector though. But still, once again, 3 episodes to go.
Person man, hit on the head with a frying pan, lives his life in a garbage can. Person man.
Yep, this is the end. The final episode of the whole series is at number 3 on the list. Surprised? I bet you are. But let's talk about why it's at number 3. Well, in this episode, Sylvester fucking eats Tweety. About time. Oh, but it goes downhill from there, because after he eats Tweety, the entire universe turns against Sylvester, and because he committed the most heinous crime you could think of, he ends up going to jail. You know, Looney Tunes law is weird. I mean, you could blow up people, assault them relentlessly, and cause them hell for days on end without any consequences. But if you eat a certain little yellow bird, and you're in the slammer, my friend. The slammer. Oh, and you want to know something else? All of that was just a dream sequence. And Sylvester is pretty much thinks that he's forced to live with Tweety's suffering assholeness. Despite everything you've seen before, and despite everything you're going to be seeing next. And before we go on to number 2, I want to let you guys know that number 2 on this list is a real stinker.
Person man, hit on the head with a frying pan, lives his life in a garbage can. Person man.
Oh my fucking god. I fucking hate this fucking episode. Okay, let's talk about Curse of Denial, my personal most hated episode of Sylvester and Tweety Mysteries. Well, in this very special episode, the 4 heroes are exploring a pyramid, and Sylvester is being relentlessly chased by murderous mice with the intent to him. And whenever he tries to go to Granny about it, she just coldly dismisses him for no good reason. And Tweety just adds more to it by taunting him, by going on, "Yeah, you bait or putty tat." And it just goes on most of the episode. Sylvester's being hunted down by killer mice, Granny coldly dismisses him, and Tweety taunts him because he's a fucking asshole. And why? Why did they have to change the character of Tweety? They turned him from a sweet little bird into a little yellow turd. Tweety's high-flying adventure was definitely a huge apology for the series, which I will be reviewing very soon. So, this is an episode where Sylvester is almost killed, Granny doesn't give a shit, and Tweety is an asshole. What could top this? Here goes.
Person man, hit on the head with a frying pan, lives his life in a garbage can. Person man, is he depressed or is he a mess? Does he feel totally worthless? Who came up with person man, degraded man, person man?
You know, Curse of Denial would have made a good contender for number 1 on this list. In fact, if I was doing a list on how much I hate the episodes, then Curse of Denial would be number 1. It also would have been number 1, if not for something specific in the number 1 on this list. What am I talking about? Well, let me just say that there is one specific line of dialogue that ensured that the 50-carat furball would be number 1 on this list. But before I reveal that one line of dialogue, let me talk about the episode a bit first. The plot is that they're trying to find the Eye of Istanbul when it goes missing. And it's those 2 criminals, Muggsy and someone else, who stole the eye. And Sylvester accidentally ends up swallowing the eye. And when he points out to Granny that he swallowed it, she just thinks he's hungry. Although the episode kind of feels like that it was made to annoy people. Overall. Now, what was that one line of dialogue? Can any of you guess what it was? No? Well, here, let me play it all for you.
Bad kitty. Why, Tweety, you found the diamond. You're just about the best pet anyone could ever have. The best pet anyone could ever have. The best pet anyone could ever have.
Okay, all bets are off here. Where do I even begin with this? How about the fact that she said that right in front of Sylvester, even though he was the one who found the eye, and you know all that stuff he's been through in the past and in the future? This is clear as crystal, that Granny favors Tweety over Sylvester. Granny, if you favor Tweety over Sylvester, why don't you just get rid of Sylvester? Heck, even Porky Pig did a better job taking care of him than you did. All I can say is, screw this episode, screw Sylvester and Tweety Mysteries. This episode is at number 1. Bad Granny, bad bird, bad dog, bad series, bad... That's enough. Foxy disappoint for all of these episodes on this list, and to Sylvester and Tweety Mysteries in general. I'm done. Tweety Bird, rot in hell.